I'm Koios, the Rōnin BeatMaker, and welcome to Lounge Rōnin. All things, everything. I'm Koios, the Rōnin BeatMaker. And if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And shout out to my Rumble viewers and shout out to my YouTube viewers. And on this episode, we're going to discuss the Gladiatrix of ancient Rome. Now, I was a little shocked and surprised when I stumbled onto this article and this information. I did not know, and I'm sure many of you may have not known, that there were also female gladiatorial fighters. So I figured, let's delve into this. Let's learn a little bit about this small corner of ancient Roman history that many may not be aware of. And, since that whole trend of, why do men think about ancient Rome? I'm not really one of those guys. I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about ancient Rome. But shout out to those who are interested in it. If you're more curious about another perspective on ancient Rome, I highly recommend you check out Hotep Jesus. And he has a very interesting podcast episode discussing the modern day male fascination with ancient Rome. It's very interesting. But, with all the woman kings running around, claiming to be stronger and better than men, the force is female, all this other nonsense. I figured we'd share our support to the women king of Western society. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty. This article was written January 30th, 2016 by Natalia Klimczak. Gladiatrix, female fighters offered lewd entertainment in ancient Rome. Female gladiators, or gladiatrix, were just a thing of legend for many years. However, decades of research have made it possible to finally confirm their existence and importance in the ancient Roman culture of gladiator fights. Female gladiators were often called the Amazons. Female gladiators were often called the Amazon. People like to see their fights in the arenas like the Colosseum and believe them to be examples of the legendary Amazons from the East. Ancient reliefs depict the female gladiators as clothed and equipped similarly to male gladiators. yet there were some significant differences. Now, before we get into the significant differences, excuse me, I want us to delve a little deep into the Colosseum and exactly, the many, the multi-purpose, the multi, no, that's not even a good way of putting it, but how industrialized the Colosseum was in its varieties of entertainment. It's a more better way of describing it. Uh, but hey, if you guys have never heard of female gladiators, please leave a comment down below. All right, here we go. This article was written December 3rd, 2017 by Riley Winters. The Colosseum, from gladiator fights to gory executions and sea battles. Gladiatorial fights, sea battles, criminal and Christian executions, these are only a few of the events, if they can even be called such, that happened in the walls of the Colosseum, known during its initial construction as the Flavian Amphitheater. In honor of the first Flavian emperor, the Colosseum quickly made a name for itself as the place to be. Rich and poor alike flocked to its stands, regardless of whether or not one could see the actions of the participants in the arena or below. The monumental structure. Begun under the imperial rule of Vespasian, many tourists who visit the Colosseum are unaware of its previous history. And it was built under the imperial rule of Vespasian, who was 69 to 79 AD. Before Vespasian gained power at the end of the year of the four emperors, Nero, adopted son of Gladius, controlled ancient Rome for 13 years. Bless you, Pablo. Sorry, my little chihuahua is having the sniffles. Okay. In this time, the excessively unstable and overtly lavish leader built himself a golden house, Domus Aurea in Latin, equipped with grandiose gardens and a man-made lake. After Nero took his own life and threw a wrench in the Roman Imperium, General Vespasian eventually gained control. One of the first things to go was the Domus Aurea. The Colosseum now survives where the lake and gardens once stood. Now here we have a carving of the General Vespasian. In its place was built a monumental freestanding structure of stone and concrete, using a complex system of barrel vaults and groin vaults. Incorporated into this impressive design were recent architectural innovations that have continued to inspire modern architecture. The arcs and vaults in particular remain distinct. Further, at the time of its construction, the Colosseum was the largest amphitheater of the empire. Unique in its freestanding status, the theaters of ancient Greek world were not freestanding, but built into the side of hills. Vespasian ensured the Colosseum was a central and highly exposed feat. Vespasian began the building program 3 short years into his reign. However, he would unfortunately not see it completed. For that matter, his eldest son, Titus, heir apparent and completer of the statue, would only live to see the initial beginnings of the Colosseum in action before he died. The life of the Colosseum really flourished under Domitian, Vespasian's second son, and Titus' heir in lieu of a son. So here we have says Tertius, of Titus celebrating the inauguration of the Colosseum, minted in 80 AD. The real events in the Colosseum. So, what truly happened within the Colosseum? The tales of sea battles and executions can be found in various ancient and modern literature. But where does the accuracy stop and the elaboration begin? Well, to the surprise of many, the tales of sea battles are in fact accurate. There is evidence remaining within the structure, as well as literary documentation, that the Colosseum was rather easily flooded to allow for such enclosed naval fights. Latin, Navalia Porelia. The drainage system of ancient Rome has been praised for thousands of years. This is one of the best examples of why. Also within the walls of the Colosseum, what to me is crazy that they would have literal naval battles within the Colosseum. Can you imagine, like, just to imagine just getting to spend like 30 minutes or maybe 2 hours at the Colosseum during ancient Rome and just getting to watch a naval battle in a Colosseum? Like, like that would be like so like jaw dropping and just like very epic to see and very gruesome. I could imagine they probably also would fill the during the naval battles. They'd probably fill it with crocodiles and alligators just to add some spice to an already over seasoned entertainment. Also within the walls of the Colosseum were typical hand-to-hand combats between various gladiators, as well as venatio, or staged hunts, in which animals from as far as Near East were imported to hunt or be hunted by the gladiators. Oh, that's crazy. Can you imagine you're a gladiator, you go in and they put you up against like a cheetah and a jaguar? Oh man, they were not short for their imagination, were they? One of the most highly debated aspects of the Colosseum is its use as a stage for Christian martyrdom. While crucifixion graffiti is rampant within ancient Rome, most well known is the crucifixion of the donkey man of the Alexinos Graffito. Okay. The evidence for this is surprisingly scarce in ancient sources. Oh, so the History Channel was lying to me. Okay. The primary literature pertaining to the instance of Christians. The Roman literature states that crucifixions happened at the Circus Maximus or other locations outside the city. Thus, scholarship remains divided on whether Christians did meet an untimely, painful end in the fighting ring. And here we have the Alexmenos Graffito, 200 AD, the Palatine Museum, Rome, Italy. So this like their interpretation, is this like their way of like um so back then they would just like all the jackasses and assholes of ancient Rome, they would just crucify them? That's how I'm imagining this, since it's a donkey being crucified. And we would normally call the dunce hat, the jackass, the asshole. So I'm in my mind, I'm imagining that Rome had a pretty strict rule against assholes. Well, like, imagine, right? Just imagine this, right? Imagine you pulled some like dick move, and you get tried, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna crucify you. So imagine they shove a dead donkey's head on you, right? And then they just proceed to crucify you. Like that, just imagine the outrageousness of that. Like that would be an outrageous experience to see. So I don't know. I just think that's hilarious to me. That's just hilarious. Diminished grandeur. Today, when tourists visit the Colosseum, its ancient grandeur is somewhat diminished. The once stunning marble sculptures and facade of the Colosseum were long ago stripped away when building materials were scarce, and what remains looks as much like an empty shell outside. As it is. Outside, consumed gladiators flock about offering pictures with them for a price, taking away what was once a valued form of entertainment. The gladiators might have been slaves, but some of them reached celebrity status. Can it truthfully be said that this prominence is maintained by the costumed teenagers looking to make a summary salary? Oh, making a summer salary. Well, I mean, I don't think I would correlate getting a summer job as being a gladiator fighting in the Colosseum against other gladiators or large predators from throughout the known world at that time. I think that's a bit of an excessive contrast, personally. I don't see the correlation there. um, but okay. What? Yeah, that's hilarious. Obviously, this author, um, Riley Winters, she really must have hated those summer jobs growing up. Oh boy, that's funny. Excuse me. So here we have an illustration by French painter Jean-Léon Gérôme, depicted gladiators fighting beasts in 1902. We got a gladiator fighting lions. We got people crucified in the background. We got dead bodies all over the ground. We got I would say the Colosseum workers whipping the animals back into the cages. Yeah, we got a lot going on. The bones of the Colosseum remain an outstanding image of the architectural achievements of the ancient world. Its continued existence reveals that even those who borrowed the marble valued the core of what the monument once was. That is the legacy Vespasian and Titus left to Rome, a structure that continues to embody the strength and power of ancient Rome in spite of the modern renovations and somewhat unsuitable tourist traps. Here we have a picture of the Colosseum. I'll tell you, that's one place I definitely want to travel to, is to the Colosseum. Definitely. Rome is on the bucket list for sure. All right. Now, let's get back into learning about the differences between male gladiators and female gladiators. Okay. First of all, they did not wear helmets or tunics. Really? Oh man, so I might have to change my thumbnail. In place of tunics, they wore only a loincloth. They also used a sword called the gladius, were arm and lower leg protectors, and a body shield. The lack of helmets for most female gladiators also may be of interest. There are few male gladiators who didn't use the helmet, but it seems that in case of women, there was a different reason for not using it. Women didn't use helmets usually to show their feminine hairstyles as an obvious demonstration of the sex of the fighters. So they had these female warriors, these female gladiators. They had them pretty much butt naked with a loincloth, with their hair all done up, with a sword and a shield. So it's like sexy fighting. Now imagine seeing that. Like imagine seeing some really strong female gladiators duking it out, butt naked, and then one of them just lops off an arm. Like that's kind of what you're like. And you know what's interesting about it is this whole idea of, you know, of combining sex with violence. And you see that everywhere. You see it in our TV shows. You see it in yeah, you see it in everything. Our TV shows, our music, uh, this idea of the combination of sex and violence. I mean, you even see it in the pornography, uh, and also in the fact that men and women, especially women, there's a large data showing a lot of women are searching for pornography that contains, extreme, um, you know, BDST, that type of extremeness, extreme choking and spanking and things like that. Um, and I don't I'm wondering if maybe that is something that was clearly very permanent in ancient Greek and Roman culture. I don't know if that was something that was seen in other areas of the world. The the uh the entertainment of high octane sex and violence, and you see that now. That was one of the reasons why um oh gosh, what is it called? The Game of Thrones was such a popular show. You had a combination of, great storytelling up until a couple seasons. You had great characters, you had great fighting, and you had a lot of sex. And you put all of those together, and you get this very entertaining show. I mean, there is literally a correlation between um, Jamie and Cersei, two siblings having sex, and the rise of incest corn on the internet. There's a correlation of these things, and you can see it everywhere. You look at the trends, you look at the music, anything like that. Even now, isn't it? And I guarantee you, right? I guarantee you, if there were like people who were doing statistics and studies back then, you would probably have at these female battles a crap ton of women, a crap ton of women there, um just as much as men. But I would not be surprised if there was more women there than men for the female gladiatorial fights. I'm just speculating here, but I would not be surprised. I think it's very interesting, very very interesting. It'll just be it just will just be a sight to see, honestly. And also, well, I mean, I think did they say that they wore body armor? No, they didn't wear body armor. So I know they're saying the demonstration, the sex of the fighters, but I mean, if you see, a chick with a big old pair of titties swinging a sword in the Coliseum, I think you'll be able to tell that that's a woman. All right, and here we have the old remnants of the Ludus Magnus in Rome, barracks of gladiators built by Emperor Domitian, 81 to 96 CE. And it's in the background is the Colosseum. A symbol of Roman vanity. The use of female gladiators was closely associated with decadence and luxury. Written records, such as those of Cassius Dio, uh, Petronius, and Juvenal, show that it's very likely that female fights were very lavish because of the infrequency of female gladiators. Gladiator women were also used as sexual objects for the Roman elite. Gladiatrix were thus representative of indulgence on the part of the wealthy elite. Fighting women were an important part of noble private parties, and they were sometimes invited into private homes to entertain their guests. So you it's like the female fighters. These female fighters were they were more elite entertainment. They were for the elites. Um, and what I find interesting as well is that not only were they warriors, but they were also sex slaves at the exact same time, which were probably goes to so with many male gladiators as well. If you've ever seen the show Spartacus, which is an amazing show, and the sequel show to it is just as good. Great action, great violence, great sex in the show. Everything Western society loves in their entertainment. Um, and they didn't have any female gladiators. Although, how dope would it be to get like a mini series, uh, you know, covering the life and the death of one female, uh, gladiator. That'll be a really interesting show to see. And I think what's interesting about it, right, is Roman vanity. It's like I would imagine, right, that even now for the elites of Western society, there are entertainment that we know is highly immoral, highly illegal, but is highly participated in. So I would not be surprised if, because you look at like um uh the MMC, MMA, yeah, MMA. Um, you have male MMA fighters, and you also have female MMA fighters. And what's interesting, right, is that it's called the Coliseum as well. And they're fighting in an octagon. Is it called the Coliseum? I don't know. I'm not an MMA expert. But what I find really interesting is that even there you look at the female MMA fighters, and when they are fighting, they don't look good looking. They got their hair up. They're wearing, I mean, they're wearing loose, they're wearing tight clothing, but it's more designed for their ability for mobility. And they look bloodied and beaten afterwards. Some of them have their faces swollen, but then, give it a month or two, and then the next thing you know, you check their Instagram page and you're like, holy smoke, this is a gorgeous woman. And I think that's what's really interesting is, there's a decent amount of these uh, female MMA fighters that are actually very good looking women. They're actually attractive. I know one of them has an OnlyFans. Like there's one MMA female fighter. She has an OnlyFans and she's drop dead gorgeous. Like I can't even front. She's a beautiful woman. I just hope she keeps that beauty of a face, because that face has no business in the octagon. But I digress. Um, and that entertainment is for everybody. Anybody can necessarily see it. I mean, if you're willing to pay the pay-per-view, or if you're willing to pay to go see it in person. So it's MMA is not necessarily a entertainment that's exclusive, but or even the bare knuckle fighting or the karate competitions. I don't think any of that stuff nowadays is necessarily exclusive. But the things that are exclusive, we may not necessarily know about, or we hear rumors about that type of entertainment. I'm sure that there is underground MMA fighting where it's to the death. I'm sure of it. And I'm sure the elites participate in that just as much as they participate in the one where they don't allow anyone to die. Uh, but imagine if they, for MMA fighting, if they had the female fighters fighting, but they were only just wearing a loincloth, today. Um, the You would have an increase in people watching it. They would double their revenue if they were to do something like that. Because then you're mixing in a little bit of sex into the violence, and there isn't any right now. But do not be surprised, because if there is going to be another, formation of a mixed martial arts competition for women, but the women are topless, like it will happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. Look at the that female football. I mean, they're wearing bikinis. They're like literally wearing bikinis and shoulder pads. Uh, and even that right there, you could call as a is sexualized violence, because the women have good looking bodies. They're in great shape, and most of them are good looking as in general. Um, so from what I've seen, so it's interesting to me, the difference now in terms of our desire of violent entertainment. There isn't a lot of sexualized violent entertainment in, well, I guess, well, no, I guess the murder shows, because who was it, um who what were they, what are they called? South Park. Yeah, South Park did an episode where the parents were addicted to uh the murder shows, and they would all have sex during the murder shows, and it was becoming such a problem that the kids actually went to the cable company and canceled that subscription to the the sec the murder shows. And I feel like we have that now, where they will take a lot of those murder shows, and most often it doesn't feel like a lover or two married couple, and an affair or what have you. So we tend to mix. Look at you look at the Law and Order universe. You have one version of it where it's just depicted to solving cases of sexual assault. um we have so many shows about that. I mean, even now, look at on TLC. What's it called? Like MILF Manor, where it's like a bunch of MILFs that go into a mansion with their sons, and then the sons hook up with the other sons' moms. But there's no violence. It's not like the sons are fighting or anything like that. But there's so much of it in Western society. Um, and I feel like we are like, even remember Ninja Warrior. I don't know how many people watched Ninja Warrior, but like imagine if they did a Ninja Warrior XX, and it was all the men and women doing Ninja Warrior, but they were naked. People would watch it. You'd have OnlyFans models doing Ninja Warrior XXX just to get more subscribers to their channels. Um, so I think what's interesting about this in terms of the elites is that used to be an exclusive thing, but now everyone can participate in it, but not in the more unethical underground black market entertainment that we know is very prolific, but no one talks about it. And I guess you could almost say that for the elites of ancient Rome, having women fighters was more of an underground kind of black market entertainment as opposed to having the men. But enough of a Ronin rant. Let's get back into it. Okay. So here we have a example of early Gladiatrix fighters. And like you can see, well, we know that they normally didn't wear helmets. So, and this is like, looks like a interpretation. But notice how, the woman, she's topless. Her hair looks good. I mean, she's pretty much naked. She's got the trident and the net. And then we have another woman here. She has a helmet, the shield, the sword, and a loin cloth on her, covering her waist. She has one ankle armor. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I could not imagine. Like, you just think about it. Like, you have these women come to your villa, and you have them fight it out, and whoever wins, gets to sleep with you, like some weirdness like that. That probably happened more often than not. Because as I said earlier, they were used for violent entertainment, but they were also used for sexual entertainment. Excuse me. The main difference between male and female gladiators is that the women weren't slaves in the beginning. Oh, okay. Well, it's quite possible that in later periods, women who were slaves fought in arenas. But the first gladiatrix were free women who were looking for adventure. Okay, that is very interesting. So they were free women who wanted to, live life on the wild side, but like the violent wild side. Wow. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. What? They were usually wealthy Roman women who liked to fight and treated it as a form of entertainment, a sport, or believed it a way to find a special role in society. According to Tactius, no, what, Tacitus? I'm sorry, I'm butchering some of these names. 56 to 117 AD, they were hardly ever viewed by noble men, but at the same time, their fights were extremely popular. However, it was also said that the senators disgraced themselves for watching Gladiatrix in the amphitheater. The women also didn't fight to earn money as they were already very rich. Thus, it has been argued that they were looking for attention, excitement, and notoriety. All they needed to achieve these goals were to receive special permission from a person who arranged the fights. So could you imagine right now, like, Kim Kardashian just decided, you know what, I'm going to be an MMA boxer. That's I really was under the impression that these are female slaves, but it started off with just wealthy, rich noble women who were bored and they were just bored, and they were like, I want to fight. I want to kill. Wow. Hey man, those Roman women were different. You're not going to see any wealthy elite women nowadays. You're not going to see AOC taking up, mixed martial arts and getting into fighting. Like, we're not going to see anything of that caliber going on. But just the fact that it's pretty much just a bunch of wealthy women who are bored deciding to just kill each other. We man, we need that. We need to bring that back. We need to see all the Hollywood women. We need Selma Hayek, beating down on Charlize Theron. All right, we need to see that. You know what? We need to see that as a TV show. Imagine that as a TV show. Just a bunch of wealthy women who are so bored that they get into underground fighting arenas. That's crazy. That they're just bored and they just wanted to fight and kill. And just all for fame. This is pretty much the equivalent of Instagram at that era. Like Instagram models, right? It's all about the attention, the excitement and notoriety of getting all the likes and getting the money and going on podcasts and doing all the photo shoots. That was essentially pretty much the same for rich women of ancient Rome. All right, their Instagram at that time was being a gladiator. Think about that. Rich ancient female Romans Instagram was being a gladiator and killing each other. How wild is that? These women are wild. Women ain't built like that nowadays. We ain't got women built like that nowadays. Nah. Nope. That is fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. I see we got some people watching. If you're enjoying the stream so far, please hit that like button. Please. I greatly appreciate it over there, Rumble. YouTube over here, they're following through, Rumble. They hit that like button. Y'all are slacking over there. Don't be teasing me. Come on. Hit that spot. But yeah, that's hilarious. So just let for everyone to know that Instagram for ancient wealthy women of Rome was being gladiators and stabbing each other to death. That's pretty badass. I ain't even gonna front. All right. Accounts of Gladiatrix in historical resources. Female gladiators probably appeared for the first time during the reign of Emperor Nero. The Roman historian Cassius Dio described the gladiator fights, which was held as a tribute to Nero's mother. In honor of his mother, quote, in honor of his mother, Nero celebrated a most magnificent and costly festival. The events taking place for several days in 5 or 6 theaters at once. There was another exhibition that was at once most disgraceful and most shocking, when men and women, not only in the Estrian, in the not only the women of the Estrian, but even of the senatorial order, appeared as performers in the orchestra, in the circus, and in the hunting theater, like those who held in lowest esteem. They drove horses, killed wild beasts, and fought as gladiators, some willingly and some sore against their will. End quote. Apart from Nero, ruled 54 to 68 AD, other emperors of Rome also liked to invite gladiatrix to their houses, parties, and other celebrations in big arenas. There are also accounts of them which come from the period of Emperor Domitian's reign from 81 to 96 AD. As Cassius Dio wrote about Domitian, often he would conduct the games also at night, and sometimes he would pit dwarfs and women against each other. Oh my lord. No, every stone uncovered in their imagination. Now, just imagine, like, we have We have midget boxing nowadays, and it is, as you can imagine, very entertaining. But just imagine dwarfs with swords fighting each other. Like, I was listening to the PBD podcast, and they had Jimmy Dore and Tim Pool on, and Tim Pool was talking about they were talking about Kanye and like why Kanye decided to trademark use YEWS and like what is going on, like why did he come onto your platform and do all of that. And what Tim Pool suspects is that Kanye is so rich and so powerful that he's bored, and so he'll just do things out of to entertain himself and just to get a rise and to get attention. And I think it's very funny that here it's like, putting dwarves to fight one another. It's like these people were so bored. Like the rich women who fought, they were so bored. They were like, man, I want to fight. I want to kill. They got so high watching the gladiatorial battles. They were like, yo, I want a piece of that. I want to hit off of that contact high. They want a direct hit. Man, wild. And here we have I forgot the type of work this is, but it's essentially a rendition of dwarfs in the Roman arena. And we got a guy who's naked with a leaf in his mouth. Yeah. And we got another dwarf on the ground. I think that might be the oh god, what's the word? The announcer, or maybe another dwarf. Not really sure. All right. Septimus Severus also accepted female gladiators until around 200 AD, when he banned the female fights to reduce arguments in the arenas. The main goal was to stop making the gladiatorial fights into shows, which, according to the emperor, promoted lower class behavior amongst noble women. This point of view was also present in Emperor Honorius, who finally decreed the end of gladiators altogether in 399 AD. The last known competition between gladiators took place in Rome on January 1st, 202 AD. Too many arguments. You had women in the arena, all these wealthy women just wilding out, acting out of pocket at the arena, jumping into the arena themselves. Craziness. But let's learn a little bit about Emperor Nero, since he was a guy who kind of first kicked off the whole concept of female gladiators. Okay. Roman Emperor Nero. Oh, hold on. This was written January 26, 2020. Roman Emperor Nero. Does he deserve his bad boy reputation? Nero, in full, Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanius, I was almost there, was a Roman emperor who lived during the first century AD. He was the fifth and last emperor of the Julio Claudian dynasty, which had been founded by Augustus. Nero is commonly regarded to be one of the worst emperors in Rome's history. Most of the information we have today about Emperor Nero comes from the works of Tactius, Suetonius, and Cassius Dio, all whom were writing after Nero's reign. These men belonged to the senatorial class, who hated the emperor very much. This would provide some explanation for the extremely negative portrayal of Nero in these historical sources. Nevertheless, Emperor Nero seems to have enjoyed some level of popularity amongst the lower classes. Apart from Roman history, Nero was a prominent place in the history of Christianity, as he is remembered as the great persecutor of the church and was widely considered by early Christians to be antichrist. Here we have an illustration. It's a depiction of Emperor Nero with a tiger and Rome burning in the background during the Great Fire. An early history and loose ties to the empire. Nero was born on the 15th of December 37 AD in Antium near Rome. He was originally known as Lucius Domitius Anhobarbus, and was the son of Ganius Domitus Anhembarpus and Agrippina the Younger. Nero had close links to Julio-Claudian dynasty, especially through his mother. Agrippina the Younger was a sister and reputed lover of Caligula and daughter of Agrippina the Elder. Oh Lord. The goddaughter of Augustus through Julia the Elder. This meant that Nero was the nephew of one emperor, Caligula, and the great 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 grandson of another, Augustus. In addition, Nero was connected to Tiberius through his maternal grandfather, Germanicus, who was the second emperor's nephew and adopted son. Furthermore, Germanicus was the brother of Claudius, Nero's predecessor and adoptive father. Although Nero was well connected, it was initially thought that he would never have the opportunity to become emperor. In the year that Nero was born, his uncle Caligula had just succeeded Tiberius as emperor. The new emperor was only 24 years old at the time of his accession, and both his predecessors, Augustus and Tiberius, lived well into their 70s. It was expected at the time that Caligula, oh, maybe it's Caligula? Maybe it's Caligula. I am not sure. I apologize sincerely. Uh, Maybe it's Caligula. Caligula too would reign for many decades to come, and that in time he would produce his own heirs. As things turned out, Caligula barely ruled for 4 years before he was assassinated in early 41 AD. Caligula had no sons, and his only daughter, Julia Drusilla, was also murdered, despite being a mere infant. Damn. It was feared that, if allowed to live, Caligula's daughter or her descendants could one day attempt to reclaim the throne. And here we have an illustration of in AD 41, the debauched Romer Caligula was murdered. Gratus, a member of the Praetorium, draws a curtain aside to reveal the terrified Claudius, who was hailed as emperor on the spot. Caligula was succeeded by his uncle Claudius. At the time of Claudius' ascension, Nero was practically an orphan. His mother had been exiled to Pontian Islands in 39 AD for allegedly participating in a conspiracy against Caligula. Suetonius records that Nero was sent to live with his aunt Lepida, where his two tutors, a dancer and a barber. Oh, where he had two tutors, a dancer and a barber. A year later, his father died from edema. When Claudius became emperor, one of the first things he did was to recall his nieces, Agrippina and his sister Julia Livilla, from their exile. After her return in Rome, Agrippina married Gallus Sallustius Crispus Pausanias, one of the wealthiest men in the city. Suetonius, claiming that he possessed an estate of 200 million sesterces. Suetonius also wrote that after Pausanias made Agrippina his heir, he was slain by her treachery. Pausanias died sometime between 44 and 47 AD. Agrippina's next move was to put Nero on the throne, scheming their way to the top. In 48 AD, Claudius had been ruling the Roman Empire for 7 years already. In that year, the emperor had his third wife, Valeria Messalina, executed as she was accused of plotting against her husband. This was an opportunity for Agrippina to draw closer to her goal of making her son emperor. According to ancient sources, the emperor's freedmen had a task of selecting a new wife for Claudius. Eventually, the competition narrowed down to three candidates: Lolia Paulina, the daughter of the consul Marcus Lollius; Aelia Patina, Claudius's second wife, whom he had previously divorced; and Agrippina. According to Tacitus, each of the three women had their own patrons who put forward the arguments in support of their candidate. Agrippina was supported by Pallas, whose arguments, according to Tacitus, are as follows. Pallas, in his eulogy of Agrippina, insisted on the point that she brought with her the grandson of Germanicus, who fully deserved an imperial position. Let the sovereign unite to himself a famous stock, the posterity of the Julian and Claudian races, and ensure that a princess of tribe fecundity, still in the vigor of youth, should not transfer the glory of the Caesars into another family. Tacitus goes on to state that Pallas' argument, with help from allurements of Agrippina, won Claudius over, and emperor made Agrippina, who was also his niece, his fourth wife. You know what's funny about it, right? Hollywood, like they're trying to like make movies and shows with like strong female characters, but they just turn out to just be men, but female in a sense, and it just doesn't work. You see that with Ahsoka, that Charlie's Angels, all of it. You see it with so many shows and TVs and whatnot. But here, like, imagine if they were to adapt this woman's story, not her son Nero, but his mom, and just adapt her story of her goal of getting her son to be emperor, and just using, her wits, her smarts, her femininity, her sexuality to get her son on the throne. That would be a fantastic story and a great adaptation of something that actually happened. And there's no need for any of the bullshit because you have documented evidence to follow from about what this woman did to get her son on the throne, even though he turned out to be one of the worst emperors of ancient Roman history. Just saying. Agrippina uh, Agrippina continued to work towards her goal of arranging the marriage between Nero and Claudia Octavia, Claudius's daughter, with Melasinia. Octavia had in fact been betrothed to Lucius Junius Silanus Torquatus, but Agrippina's scheming ruined the young man and caused Claudius to cancel the engagement. Nero and Octavia were married in 53 AD. By then, Agrippina had been awarded the honorable title Augusta, which had previously been held only by Livia, the wife of Augustus, by the Roman Senate. In the same year, 50 AD, Nero was officially adopted by Claudius and took the name Nero Claudius Drusus Germanicus. Since Nero was older than Britannicus, the son of Claudius and Messalina, he was effectively their heir to the throne at the time of his adoption. Claudius died in 54 AD, possibly poisoned by Agrippina herself. According to the ancient sources, she obtained the poison from the notorious Lucasta and had sprinkled in some mushrooms, which the emperor was extremely fond of. In Tacitus' account, the poison did not kill Claudius, and Agrippina had Xenophon plunge a feather dipped in quick poison down the emperor's throat under a cover of assisting the emperor's struggles to vomit. God damn. Once Claudius was dead, Nero, who was not even 17 years old, became the new emperor of Rome. At this point in time, Nero was not yet the monster that history remembers him to be. Instead, Emperor Nero's reign got off to a promising start. So here we have a statue of Roman Emperor Nero in Azeno, Italy. Promising start to Emperor Nero's reign. The early part of his reign is considered a period of good governance, and the affairs of state were handled effectively. Credit for this achievement, however, doesn't go to Nero alone, as it was actually his advisors, Agrippina, Sextus Afinius Burrus, the prefect of the Petronian Guard, and Lucius Annius Seneca, Nero's tutor, who were running the show. During the first 5 years of his reign, Emperor Nero, or more adoptively his advisors, brought some positive changes to Roman society. For instance, during the later years of Claudius's reign, secret political trials were conducted before the emperor, and corrupt freemen wielded much power over the emperor. Both these features were abolished. Nero is said to have reduced taxes and gave the Senate more power, replaced gladiatorial combats with poetry and athletic competitions, and even pardoned those who plotted against him. Debaucheries and murders. As Nero's advisors handled the administration of the empire, Nero began to indulge in his passions, which became increasingly extravagant as the years went by. In addition, Nero is recorded to have been dissatisfied with his marriage to Octavia, and that he began an affair with a former slave, Gladiatrix. In 55 AD, Agrippina attempted to intervene on behalf of Octavia. By this time, however, Agrippina had lost her influence over her son. This was partly due to the encouragement given by Seneca to Nero, urging him to free himself of his mother's grip. Agrippina, realizing that she may soon lose power, decided to throw her support behind Britannicus, who had a claim to the throne. Britannicus, however, died in 55 AD, poisoned by Nero, according to the ancient sources. Like mother, like son. 3 years later, Agrippina herself was murdered by Nero. The emperor tried to assassinate his mother by having the ship she was traveling on wrecked. Agrippina, however, survived and swam to the shore to safety. Although Agrippina was suspicious that the sinking of the ship was no accident and that an attempt on her life had been made, she feigned ignorance and sent her freedman, Agrimas, to report to Nero that she was fine. Nero had a sword thrown to the ground, accused Agrimas of trying to assassinate him, and had him punished. He also had Agrippina killed and conjured the story that his mother had sent Agrimas to kill him, but realizing that the assassination had failed, committed suicide. Here we have an illustration of Emperor Nero crouches over his mother, Agrippina, after ordering her murder. Burrus and Seneca continued to run the empire for the 4 years after Agrippina's death. In the meantime, Emperor Nero was free to pursue his passions. When Burrus died in 62 AD and Seneca retired, they were replaced by Gaius Opinius Tigellinus, a favorite of Nero. In the same year, the emperor divorced Octavia and married Poppaea Sabina, who had become Nero's favorite mistress. Soon after Tigellinus' promotion, a series of treason laws were introduced. Many capital sentences were carried out, and two of Nero's few surviving relatives were executed. God damn. The Great Fire, hero or villain? In July 64 AD, the Great Fire of Rome broke out, which devastated the city. In this incident that gave rise to the legend that Nero fiddled while Rome burned, which had begun as a rumor. In fact, Nero was not even in Rome when the fire started, but was at Antium, and that he contributed to the relief efforts. Here we have a picture, or an illustration, I should say, of Emperor Nero watches as Rome burns during the Great Fire. According to Tacitus, Nero, who at the time was staying in Antium, did not return to the capital until the fire to the homeless and fugitive populace. He opened the Campus Maritus, the building of Agrippa, even his own gardens, and threw up a number of extemporized shelters to accommodate the helpless multitude. The necessities of life were brought up from Ostia and the neighboring municipalities, and the price of grain was lowered to 3 sesterces. Yet his measures, popularity as their character might be, failed of their effort. For the report had spread that at the very moment when Rome was aflame, excuse me, he had mounted his private stage and, typifying the ills of the present by the calamities of the past, had sung the destruction of Troy. After the fire, Emperor Nero seized the opportunity to build the Golden House, a new palace which had been completed and had covered a third, accusing Nero to deliberately starting the fire so that he could build his Golden House. That sounds very similar to United States imperialism and corporations. They be doing that stuff, starting fires, wars, and then snatching up resources and land and profits. Here we have a picture of part of Emperor Nero's Golden House in Rome. On the other hand, Tacitus reports that Nero's rebuilding of the rest of the city took into consideration measures that would prevent such fires from happening in the future. For instance, the districts were to be built in measured lines of streets, which broad thoroughfares, buildings of restricted height, and open spaces, while colonnades were added as a protection to the front of the terminate blocks. Other measures included having water supply available for public purposes in greater quantities and at more points, and appliances for checking fire were to be kept by everyone in the open. Whilst many blamed Nero for starting the fire, the emperor managed to find a scapegoat for the disaster, blaming the Christians, who were believed to be engaged in various wicked deeds. According to Tacitus, vast numbers were convicted, not so much on the count of arson as for hatred of the human race, and that they were covered with wild beasts' skins and torn to death by dogs. And they were fastened on crosses, and when daylight failed, they were burned to serve as lamps by night. God damn. Wow. That is excessive. That is beyond excessive. Just imagine, right? You're working all day, blacksmith, get this funky ass smell in the air. It's late, headed home. You see the torches lit. It smells like, it smells like human. Burnt human. And you look up at the torch and it's a person. You weren't even aware of what was going on the entire day. You were just hustling. Oh my lord. That is just wild. By blaming the Christians for the fire, Nero is said to have inadvertently initiated the policy of persecuting Christians, which would be pursued later on by other Roman emperors. As a consequence, Nero became identified as the Antichrist. Interesting. Interesting. The end is near. In the following year, an attempt on the emperor's life, the Pisanian conspiracy was made. The plot, however, was discovered, and many of the conspirators, which included Seneca, were forced to commit suicide. It is clear that Emperor Nero was fast losing his popularity amongst the elite. In 16 AD, a rebellion broke out in Gaul, led by its governor, Gaius Julius Vindex. Nero did not deal with the revolt decisively, and it soon spread to other parts of the empire. Servius Sulpicius Galba, the governor of Hispania, was made emperor by the legions, and he declared himself the legate of the Senate and the Roman people. Nero was abandoned by the Praetorian Guard, and the emperor tried to flee. When he learned that the Senate had ordered his arrest and execution, however, Nero chose to commit suicide by stabbing his throat with a dagger. Nero ended his life on the 9th of June, 68 AD. According to Suetonius, Nero lamented, "What an artist the world is losing," before committing suicide. Although commonly said to be Nero's last words, the emperor's final words, according to Suetonius, were in fact, "Too late, and this is fidelity," uttered as a centurion placed a cloak around the wound, pretending that he had come to aid the emperor. Too late. Beat you to it. Killed me first. Here we have an illustration of Emperor Nero lies dead on the floor after committing suicide. Forgot I can't say that word on YouTube. To conclude, Nero is commonly considered to be one of the most wicked emperors Rome ever had, and he is remembered as such even till this day. Indeed, a list of the worst emperors of Roman Empire would not be complete without him. Whilst cannot be denied that Nero was a terrible emperor, he was not without any positive points. For instance, the first 5 years of his reign can be viewed positively, whilst his actual conduct during the Great Fire of Rome is noteworthy. Nevertheless, these are often left out, perhaps unjustly, so leaving us only with the image of Nero the monster. Well, I mean, I feel that if you are burning people at night, you crucify them during the day, and then you burn them at night to use them as torches for streetways, I would say that might outweigh some of the good that you do. But that's just me personally. Uh, but but he is a product of his environment. That's essentially what we're kind of learning here, is that Nero was essentially a product of his own environment. His mother is essentially what kind of created this this monster by putting him in power when he was not ready to be in power. But I'm telling you, that would be a fascinating show. Season one would be her rise to power, her son's rise, her rise to power, and it could end with her son being emperor, and then season two would just be the fall. It would be good, solid 2 seasons. I would watch that. HBO, get on that. All right. And as we continue on the main article, Archaeology solves the mystery. Archaeological evidence has confirmed the existence of the women fighters that were described in ancient Roman texts. One of the most important pieces of archaeological evidence on the topic is a slab of marble from Halikarnas in Burdum, Turkey. It proves that female gladiators were viewed as sexual objects. Currently located at the British Museum, it depicts two female warriors nicknamed Achillea and Amazon. The relief is dating from the period of the 1st and 2nd century AD. The women were presented in a way that was characteristic of the depictions of female gladiators known from ancient writers. In 2001, in Southwark, London, a female Roman skeleton was unearthed and identified as a female gladiator. She was buried as an outcast outside the main cemetery with several items related to the world of gladiators. The tomb included such items as pottery lamps of Anubis, a lamp with a depiction of a fallen gladiatorial engraved on it, and bowls containing burnt pine cones from a stone pine which were planted around the London amphitheater. Some researchers still are uncertain if this woman was a gladiatrix or the wife of a gladiator. And here we have that carving of the relief of two gladiatrices found at Halicarnassus. Halicarnassus, yeah. On July 2nd, 2020, in Creedon Hill, uh, Herefordshire, England, archaeologists uncovered other remains which might be from a female gladiator. The burial contained the wooden chest secured with three iron bands and many iron nails. The pelvis and the head belonged to a very common woman. However, the leg and arm bones were found to be unusually heavy and suggested that she had strong muscles. With time, archaeologists may discover more proof of the existence of female gladiators. Their picture already has begun to leave the realm of legendary and becoming a real part of Roman history. Fascinating. Who knew? Who knew? So, I don't think the feminists would be too fond of female gladiators since they were viewed as sex objects and they were pretty much, butt naked, swinging swords and maces and spears with titties all about. Uh, but I mean, ain't that women empowerment, right? That's that, right? It sounds like women empowerment. But I just think it's hilarious that the majority at the beginning of the female gladiators, they were mostly just bored rich women who wanted to spice up their life. Like that is that is such a it's so funny to me that they that just think about it, right? And like I was saying earlier, the equivalent of Instagram for rich women of ancient Rome was being a female gladiator because it came with notoriety, it became with popularity, all right, it came with the attention, uh that the sexualized attention as well. I mean, this is it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating that it was just a bunch of bored rich women who just wanted to feel, excited. It's we live in such a bizarre world. Well, at that time, the rich people were so bored that they had to create their own entertainment, like killing one another. I mean, that would be I'd pay to see that. I mean, I would pay to see Bill Gates beat the crap out of Kyle Schwab. That'd be amazing. Give me some of that. I would love to see, Beyonce go at it with Kim Kardashian. Hell yeah. Let me see a fight between Jason Statham and 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 whoever played Steve Rogers. I can't remember his name. But yeah, give me some rich people fighting. Let's see AOC go at it with MTG. But we all know Marjorie will beat the brakes out of AOC. I mean, let's be honest here. But hey, what can we say? These ancient rich women of Rome, they needed their fix, and violence was their high. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Uh, Ancient history is such an exciting thing to look at and study, and I highly recommend anyone out there just delve into some aspects of ancient history. It doesn't have to be Rome. It can be aspects of Chinese ancient history, Japanese, Russian, whatever it may be. Get into it. Delve into it, because it's so fascinating and fun to learn, honestly. And shout out to my Rumble listeners. I really appreciate everyone who's been listening. Make sure you hit that like button. Shout out to YouTube and Twitch and Kick. I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join me on this little ancient historical ride. So I think everyone here who's watched can now say that they can now share in their next hangout with friends or family or with a significant other. They can share a little nugget of information regarding female gladiators and the little history on Emperor Nero. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. I will be attempting to, as we wrap up things right now, I will be attempting to live stream again later on tonight. Um, I'm not sure. I think I might do it on I want to do a review on the show Ahsoka. If anyone has watched it, everyone who's been listening, if you've seen Star Wars or the new show Ahsoka, put a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you enjoyed it, whatever. I'm going to probably do a review on it. I got the thumbnail already made. I've got a lot of thoughts on it. Um, so I know that on the channel I've been doing a lot of deep dives on some dense topics, but I'm gonna switch things up just a little bit, get in there some lighter topics, and probably cover some news topics that I find interesting. So just giving you guys a little light update on some things to come. So yeah, tonight most likely I'll probably do a live stream about Ahsoka. If not, I might do it on just ranting, some Ronin rants or what have you, on some of my various thoughts I've had over the weekend during my reflection periods. Tomorrow, I'll be doing a live stream on Queen. I want to get her name correct. Queen Kubaba from the Sumerian Queens list. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow. And that's what we have for the rest of the weekend. Do I have anything for next week? Oh, we're gonna do part two of the Anunnaki revealed. So if you haven't checked out the Anunnakis episode, highly recommend you check it out. Um, yeah, that's all we got so far for next week. I'm gonna try to get out an episode. I'm gonna try to get back into releasing the Monday Mindset podcast. For those who are listening, besides Lounge Ronin, I have two other podcast shows. I have the Monday Mindset, which is about being the best version of yourself by being better than yesterday. It's a self-motivating podcast show. If you're interested in that type of genre and looking to better yourself, highly recommend you check out the Monday Mindset. It's available on all streaming platforms. And I also have Lounge. No, this is Lounge Ronin. I also have the Monday Mindset Rants, which is a spin-off of the Monday Mindset, but it's just me kind of just ranting about various specific topics, some quotes and such. A little more unrestrained with the Ronin, with the Monday Mindset rants. The Monday Mindset is more controlled and respectful. It's a mindfulness, but the Monday Mindset rants. We might swear a little bit, might get onto some hot topics in regard to being a better human, essentially. So that's a little bit for people who have been listening in. If you're curious about other content that I have and you're enjoying Lounge Rōnin, all things, everything so far, I highly recommend you check out my other shows. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Rōnin, all things, everything. If you made it this far and you enjoyed the show thus far, please make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And make sure to follow me on social media. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.